What you're about to see is a very experimental video. So, as you may have seen from some announcements on my main channel and on this channel and on other social media, I have a new book coming out. It's called Why We're Getting Poorer. I won't go into too much detail on it here because I've spoken about it elsewhere, but as you might imagine, being a YouTuber, the book has quite a lot of cultural references in it, lots of Simpsons references, but also other stuff. There are some references to YouTube and just a lot of video content, which I think is good. It's representative of the modern age and like who I am and what I do. But I did have this thought late on in writing it. What if I could string together the narrative of the book solely from the video footage and cultural references that are in it? And the result is this. Now, in some areas, I think it's kind of easy to follow the message of the book. Chapter 2, which is about billionaires, I think you can basically just follow the narrative of the chapter, so you don't even need to read it. For chapter 1, it's a little bit more tricky. I got an interview from Yanis Varoufakis that is doing quite a lot of work in explaining like the emergence of capitalism. Pay special attention to the chapter headings, right? I think that's worth bearing in mind. Some chapters are longer, others are shorter. In some I've added things that weren't in the book, in others I've omitted things that were, slightly changed the order, done a little bit of signposting and labeling where I think you need it, but I hope that at the very least the result is entertaining and worth watching. And, you know, tell me what you think. If this was like, could you follow this? Was it worth watching? What did you make of each chapter? Like, how did you interpret it just through these videos? I hope it's enjoyable.
All right, I will buy it. It'll be good for the economy.
So the aristocracy owned the land, it got a lot of economic, social, political power. It was all one thing back then. There was no distinction. If you had political power, you had economic power, unlike under capitalism. And the wealth was transferred to the ruling class, to the aristocracy, through, as you put it, rent.
Do you know what I love about the British aristocracy? They're the original gangsters. The reason they own 75% of this country is because they stole it. William the Conqueror is worse than Al Capone. When he came over from France, he grabbed hold of everything he could get his hands onto. And then he set up a system so that he and his friends got to hold on to it forever.
Some work with their minds, others with their bodies. Those who work with their minds rule, while those who work with their bodies are ruled. Those who are ruled produce foods. Those who rule are fed.
Now that the season has started, I shall need to fill your coffers at the Modiste and oversee the hiring of a few extra staff. And your ring, when you get the chance, I shall need it. The fields by Ferry Hallow, I was thinking we might hold off on leasing them this year due to the hard frost.
I beg your pardon?
The frost hardens the soil, saps it of nutrients.
Then you had the fantastic transformation, the great transformation, as Karl Polanyi put it, from feudalism to capitalism. Power shifted from those who owned land to those who owned the machines, the steam engines, the factories, the steamships, the telegraphs, the later on electrical power generating systems. This is the beginning of the modern world, of modernity as we know it.
How far would the houses stretch?
Well, the whole field, really.
But why can't they be built in a row like the other streets?
They sell more quickly as separate dwellings, and we get a percentage of the sales.
So we're paid once, and in return the field is lost, the village is spoiled, and Mr. Wavell moves on in search of his next victim.
I didn't ask for any of this. The title has no practical value. The business is broken. There are holes in the roof, the staff are revolting, and you, brother, are a coke-sniffing cunt.
The first person who, having enclosed a plot of land, took it into his head to say this is mine and found people simple enough to believe him was the true founder of civil society. What crimes, wars, murders, what miseries and horrors would the human race have been spared had someone pulled up the stakes or filled in the ditch and cried out to his fellow men, "Do not listen to this impostor. You are lost if you forget that the fruits of the earth belong to all and the earth to nobody."
Think of Amazon.com. It's like a cloud thief. It's a thief that lives in the cloud, effectively on a bed of cloud capital, which allows the new lord, Jeff Bezos, or whoever owns that particular piece of digital land, to charge rents. Because Jeff Bezos doesn't produce anything that you buy on Amazon, same with the owners of Alibaba and so on.
Hang on, when have you organised parties?
All the time.
I've known you for 10 years and I have never seen you organise a party.
Bollocks. What about my birthday party last year?
Your mum organised that?
Yeah, under my supervision.
Harry Maguire is a defender. He was tackling everybody and throwing his bodies everywhere that he was seen as the best defender in the world. Manchester United went and bought him. He became the biggest threat at the centre of Manchester United's defence, tackling Manchester players and giving assists to opponents. Mr. Speaker, when even the opponents fail to score, Maguire will score for them. Mr. Speaker, you remember in this country we also had an economic Maguire.
Paul Mariner, they've spent a lot of money on Harry Maguire. Will he be worth it?
That number, no, absolutely not. I don't think there's too many central defenders in the world that are worth that number. But it's the market. That's what Manchester United need. That's what they've got to pay if they want that type of player, and that's exactly what they've done.
Let's take a look at where he ranks and the money that's been spent on defenders in recent years, and he's the most expensive overall.
Real were forced to dig deep to get their man. Luckily, the Spanish super club had money to burn, and in 2001, they sealed the deal with a world record transfer fee of approximately €78 million.
Alonso. Oh, it's in! Rudiger scores Chelsea's third.
Zidane por derecha, por izquierda.
Poi Zidane, palla che passa sopra la testa di Ronaldo.
Zidane peut-être. Ah oui, bien joué, passement de jambe, attention, frappe et but.
I often hear references to higher compensation at Goldman. What people fail to mention is that the net income generated per head is a multiple of our peer average. The people of Goldman Sachs are among the most productive in the world.
Good news, sir. The plant softball team has won again. If we beat Shelbyville next week, we capture the pennant.
Did you hear that, Harry? My boys need only to thump your tub, and the title is ours.
Ha! The gladiators from my power plant will crush your team like 9 flabby grapes.
I disagree. Would you care to bet $1 million on that? Oh, if we're going to bet, why don't we make it interesting? What, $1 million isn't interesting to you? Oh, did you say $1 million? I'm sorry, my mind was elsewhere. I thought you would start with a small amount, then we would bait each other, but you know how it goes. Yes, certainly, $1 million will be fine.
Wait a minute, someone crunch the numbers.
He's only worth $996,036,000.
He's not a billionaire at all.
Oh, don't worry. You'll feel a lot more comfortable in the millionaires camp.
No, just kill me now.
Howdy do. I own a minor league hockey team.
Yes. About now, you're still wired in? Full security. You issued 24 million new shares of stock.
You were told that if new investors came along...
How much were your shares diluted? How much were his?
What was Mr. Zuckerberg's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Mr. Moskowitz's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Sean Parker's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
What was Peter Thiel's ownership share diluted down to?
It wasn't.
And what was your ownership share diluted down to?
0.03%.
Bernard Arnault s'engage à garder 12 200 salariés sur les 15 000.
Bernard Arnault n'a rien sauvé du tout. Rien sauvé du tout.
S'il a repris le groupe Boussac-Saint-Frère, c'était pour avoir Christian Dior, mais nous, il en avait rien à cirer.
Mais qu'est-ce qui reste de Bernard Arnault ici à Fixer?
Rien.
You are a fucking nobody. Roman, you're a moron.
Cut the horse shit. Know your role.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, the first fucking thing my son's ever done right in his life.
Is it whiskey time?
Shut the fuck up. You're the one.
Mr. Lewis, if you were to get control, and I don't think you will, but if you did, what do you plan to do with the company?
Break it up and sell off the pieces?
I'm sure you understand I'm not thrilled at the idea of your turning 40 years of my work into your garage sale.
At the price I'm paying for this stock, Mr. Morse, you are going to be a very rich man.
I'm rich enough. I just want to head my shipyard.
And I can't sweep you off of your feet. Will your mouth still remember the taste of my love? Will your eyes still smile from your cheeks? Darling, I've been really trying, baby,
Trying to hold back this feeling for so long.
What have you learned from Steve's life and work?
Well, he's certainly someone I've admired. Although I did try to talk to him once at a party, and he was super rude to me.
My camera's not turning on. What's that? I did slide it and let go. Not turning on. Here. Okay. We'll let an expert see if he can turn it on.
But I don't think it was me. I think it was sort of, off the course.
I think you weren't the first.
Yeah. No.
Actually, Nerd Jesus died in the last year, right? Steve Jobs. Somebody, for the love of God, what the fuck did that guy do? What did he do? He told other people what to invent? I want my entire music collection in that phone. Get on it! Right? And then these poor, nameless, faceless scientists gotta go in a back room and figure it out.
To the man who brought us all together, our former boss, Tony Stark. The Jester King, literally wrapped in wealth and technology that he was unfit to wield. Like the holographic system I designed, a revolutionary breakthrough with limitless applications that Tony turned into a self-therapy machine and renamed
Binarily Augmented Retroframing, or BARF. Oh, $611 million for my little therapeutic experiment.
He renamed my life's work, BARF. I told him it was a mistake, that my technology could change the world. And then he fired me.
I've got with me Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, the new owners of Wrexham AFC.
What was the connection between you and Wrexham Football Club?
We had no direct connection. It was just a feeling.
What me and my dad thought was, because Wrexham's red, and Deadpool's red,
That's the real reason. Sorry.
Fire.
Tonight, new onboard video of Virgin Galactic's Unity rocketing to space from 46,000 feet. The New Mexico desert quickly falling away.
You're clear to unstrap. Welcome to space.
So take a look at this. This was the 7th launch for Starship. About 8.5 minutes after liftoff, the vehicle just exploded. Look at that. Whoa. These images were captured by someone who was watching from the Bahamas. The stunning aftermath could be seen by passengers on a plane. One of them recording this right here. Unbelievable. Wow. The captain telling them all to look out the window. The same flight to Miami was rerouted to avoid the debris.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm driving.
By hand?
Do you see me on the phone?
You can't be serious, not at these speeds.
Crosstown Express?
Is it boring driving down here with all of this? Oh my, there's a traffic jam.
Oh, you know what? When it's busy with new people constantly, it's not too bad. But when it's slow and you're by yourself, it kind of gets a little boring sometimes.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives. I think, like, if they can do it, so can I.
If you're a man, you say go, right? kids, and you're not working at least 80 hours a week, the fact is that you're lazy.
99% of people have no excuse for not being able to make 10 grand a month.
Is somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be Bill Gates?
That's the motivation everybody needs.
Never stop buying lottery tickets, no matter what anyone tells you. I failed again and again, but I never gave up. I took extra jobs and poured the money into tickets. And here I am, proof that if you put in the time, it pays off. Every inspirational speech by someone successful should have to start with a disclaimer about survivorship bias.
We all have this idea that we should move up a little bit from our parent station, and each generation should do a little bit better.
The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take boots, for example. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. But an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that would still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while a poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was the Captain Samuel Vimes boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness.
I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
You've never actually set foot in a supermarket, have you?
But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
that exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis.
Then this one is not your slave, and your Earth is yet another planet dominated by men.
It's not dominated by us, okay? On Earth, men and women are equals.
Equals? We make 70% of your salary for the same job.
I don't know what your goals are, but don't overdo it with the perfume. Keep a fifth of something in your desk. Mr. Draper drinks rye.
Well, you're not the landing party we expected. Would you be able to tell him what's so special about your panties?
The benefits are listed there, but basically they're more sheer, softer, and more like silk to the touch, yet still very strong.
So you can pull them down over and over.
Come on, Stacy. I've waited my whole life to hear you speak. Don't you have anything relevant to say?
Don't ask me. I'm just a girl.
Right on, say it, sister. It's not funny, Bart. Millions of girls will grow up thinking that this is the right way to act. That they can never be anything more than vacuous ninnies whose only goal is to look pretty, land a rich husband, and spend all day on the phone with their equally vacuous friends talking about how damn terrific it is to look pretty and have a rich husband. Just what I was going to say.
There's no protocol for women attending.
There's no protocol for a man circling the Earth either, sir.
Every time we have a chance to get ahead, they move the finish line.
I need to be in that room hearing what you hear.
Within these walls, who makes the rules?
You, sir. You are the boss. You just have to act like one.
¿Usted sabe en qué consiste esto del hoyo? Obvio. Comer. ¿Qué vamos a comer? Lo que les sobra a los de arriba.
This is the income distribution of China, 1970. This is the income distribution of the United States, 1970. Almost no overlap. Almost no overlap. And what has happened? What has happened is this, that China is growing, it's not so equal any longer, and it's appearing here, overlooking the United States, almost like a ghost, isn't it? Huh? It's pretty scary.
It's actually much better than you even mentioned. Hunger is declining, and infant mortality, and maternal mortality, and even came across Odd things like the rate of death in traffic accidents plummeted like 100-fold in the last 50 years. Your likelihood of getting mowed down on the sidewalk if you're a pedestrian, air traffic safety, even perhaps my favorite graph in the whole book, your chance of being killed by a bolt of lightning have declined by more than 95%.
It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything in short, except that which makes life worthwhile.
I'll be quite frank with you, Dave. I'm not prepared to go on living any longer in a house without a bathroom. I don't think you realise how degrading it is. It's uncivilised. And God blimey, the Greeks had baths 2,000 years ago. And here we are, 1963, the affluent flatulent society never had it so good. Do you realise that there are 4 million houses in this country without bathrooms? 4 million, Dave. That don't include the poor devils who ain't even got a house.
Sarah, you went to Blackpool. What did you see?
So Blackpool is really close to the hearts of lots of people who grew up in the north of England. It was a very booming seaside town for a long time. It kind of rose to prominence with the Industrial Revolution. So people who worked in the mills and the factories of the north would all kind of go to Blackpool for their holidays. And Blackpool really started to fall behind with the rise of kind of cheap airlines. So once people could
80s,
kind of
90s.
Exactly, yeah. Once people could go abroad to Spain or France just as cheaply, people stopped going to Blackpool. So it sort of lost its economic reason for being.
A linen shirt, for example, is, strictly speaking, not a necessity of life. The Greeks and Romans lived, I suppose, very comfortably, though they had no linen. But in the present times, through the greater part of Europe, a creditable day labourer would be ashamed to appear in public without a linen shirt, the want of which would be supposed to denote that disgraceful degree of poverty which, it is presumed, nobody can well fall into without extreme bad conduct. Custom, in the same manner, has rendered leather shoes a necessary of life in England. The poorest creditable person of either sex would be ashamed to appear in public without them.
It's not just physical health, it's mental health. Sarah, I think in the story you wrote that the local doctors have a sort of unflattering name for this. What is it?
Yeah, so doctors in Blackpool and other places that suffer from these trends have a term, they call it shit life syndrome.
Shit life syndrome.
And every GP that you meet in the country, if you say that to them, they will know what it means. But they use it to each other, not to the patients. And they say,
but what does it mean?
They don't mean it to be, it sounds kind of dismissive, doesn't it? Oh, you've just got shit life syndrome. They don't mean it that way, but basically what they're saying is people come to them with kind of complex mental and physical health problems that they are pretty sure are caused by the circumstances in which they live.
Does giving people cash really make a difference? Just watch as this village in Malawi transforms after getting life-changing cash.
Zimenezi zimenakwaniritsa parata wiki izi ni zimene ndakwanitsa kupanga parata mwezi umodzi izi parata chaka.
Well, that's their big moral high ground a lot of the time, you know. You don't give these people money. No. They'll just spend it on drink and drugs. Well, what do you think I was going to spend it on?
It seemed like everyone and their mother was advertising established titles this year. Is it a scam? Yes. Is it illegal? Maybe.
Mas na cidade de Deus, se correr o bicho pega, e se ficar o bicho come. E sempre foi assim, desde que eu era criança.
Favela residents were socially well organised and cohesive and made wide use of the urban milieu and its institutions, and they built their own houses and the physical infrastructure for their communities. Politically, they were aware of and keenly involved in those aspects of politics that affect their lives, both within and outside the favela.
buy land, AJ, because God ain't making any more of it.
Did you know that Monopoly, a game that basically celebrates unfettered capitalism, was originally designed to throw shade at the system?
Roads are made, streets are made, services are improved, electric light turns night into day, water is brought from reservoirs 100 miles off in the mountains, and all the while the landlord sits still. Every one of those improvements is affected by the labour and cost of other people and the taxpayers. To not one of those improvements does the land monopolist, as a land monopolist, contribute, and yet by every one of them the value of his land is enhanced. He renders no service to the community, he contributes nothing to the general welfare, he contributes nothing to the process from which his own enrichment is derived.
But all I did was tell the truth.
Of course you did, but there's the truth and the truth. Let me show you.
It's awfully small.
I'd say it's awfully cozy.
That's dilapidated.
Rustic.
That house is on fire.
Motivated seller.
Allow me to introduce myself. I represent the rent that's too damn high party. People working 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week to some a third job. Women can't afford to take care of their children, feed their children breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My main job is to provide a roof over your head, food on the table, and money in your pocket. This is politics as usual. Playing a silly game, but it's not going to happen. The rent too damn high movement, the people I'm here to represent can't afford to pay their rent.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? It'd be a paradise to put up a fucking line. I remember when I lost my mind.
Now don't merge. We'll all wait for you to send your text. You fat pig!
How you doing, neighbor? Does that make me crazy?
Shut up!
Does that make me crazy?
$20. I wanted a peanut. $20 can buy many peanuts. Explain how. Money can be exchanged for goods and services.
Just explain in a nutshell why it was wrong before and what now makes it better.
Well, the inflation figures, the official figures for 5.4% price increases for food rises didn't chime with my experiences in the supermarket and millions of other people's experiences. So
you thought it was a lot higher?
Yeah, they were a lot higher. So I sat down, I did the maths, I worked out exactly how much higher the cost of basic and value range food products were. And in some cases, they were up 344%.
Wow.
So I did a little tweet about it and it seemed to chime with some people.
And your allegation was that they sort of take a typical basket, don't they, and look at how the cost goes up over all those products on average.
Yeah.
And your suggestion was that they were looking at things like champagne, which, you know, I think in anyone's book is a luxury item. And actually, the way it went up was much smaller. So champagne is expensive, but it didn't get as much more expensive as a tin of baked beans.
What colour is a rainbow? On average, white. And what is the current level of UK inflation? On average, 5.4%. Both answers are true. Both answers are missing something important.
Oh, thank you very much. Look, in fact, let me show you. Look, there it is. You keep impacting it, it's solid, and the moment I stop, it's a liquid. It's custard.
There is a very, very tight labour market, tight to an unhealthy level. Our tools work as you describe. If you were moving down the number of job openings, you would have less upward pressure on wages, less of a labour shortage.
Now, whether you're looking to manage your money more effectively, want advice on changing energy suppliers, or are confused about your benefit entitlements, Martin Lewis is here to impart more invaluable wisdom.
Good morning.
Quite simply, there is a cost of living crisis. Inflation's rampant through the roof. After 4 years, my people feel they deserve a pay rise. Inflation ran at 14% last year. It's in double digits this year. Effectively, people have seen a 25% cut in their disposable income and their real wage.
Here for the tests.
Come on, Emma.
Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met.
Our brand new global factory does look awfully efficient. But it is an efficiency purchased through the destruction of all flexibility, and hence sustainability. What we should be fretting about now is what happens when, one day soon, we awake to find that war, revolution, disease, or natural disaster has cut us off from some of the increasingly scattered pockets of workers we rely on to produce keystone industrial components or to process vital back-office information. What happens when, for want of access to one or a few of the links that make up the global assembly line as a whole, our entire industrial system breaks? Pins, electronics, pharmaceuticals, food, and all.
You want the benefits of free trade? Food is cheaper.
Yes.
Food is cheaper. Clothes are cheaper, steel is cheaper, cars are cheaper. Phone service is cheaper. You feel me building a rhythm here? That's because I'm a speechwriter and I know how to make a point.
Toby.
It lowers prices, it raises income. You see what I did with lowers and raises there?
Yeah.
It's called the science of listener attention. We did repetition, we did floating opposites, and now you end with the one that's not like the others. Ready? Free trade stops wars. And that's it. Free trade stops wars.
Незамедлительно признать независимость и суверенитет Донецкой Народной Республики и Луганской Народной Республики.
So this huge cargo ship has been stuck there for hours and there's been no luck dislodging it so far, and they have been trying very hard. So this has caused a massive traffic jam on a major shipping route, so no ships are able to get through in either direction.
And so much now about whether you get your container on the boat from China to the U.S. is like, do you know the guy in Copenhagen who's like running things for Maersk or one of the other like big shipping companies? And it's not much more than that. And that's kind of like what it comes down to. And then once the container gets to the U.S. and has to move via truck or something, that's even further loose because a lot of that, and I wrote about this recently in my newsletter, it's like WhatsApp group and Facebook groups where people are like, hey, is anyone in Peoria, Illinois who can take a container of unrefrigerated goods to Dallas? And it's literally just like Facebook groups and Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups and other things like Craigslist, etc., where people are just posting message boards like, oh, I'm in Little Rock, I can pick up this. And so the entire, like, in normal times, I guess this sort of like informality works fine because there's plenty of capacity. But I think we're seeing that this sort of like, it's pretty like, It's all, the whole thing's kind of held together with duct tape.
Yeah, that Navitron auto drive system's made our jobs cushier than ever.
The what now?
You know, this thing. With this baby driving your truck for you, all you gotta do is sit back and feel your ass grow.
The trucks drive themselves?
Hey, shh. Didn't your union rep tell you about the scam we got going?
These are India's trucks.
You know what the trouble is, Brucey? We used to make shit in this country, build shit. Now we just put our hand in the next guy's pocket.